Hi, I'm Justine Burt. I'm the Chief Green Officer for Greenwala. Today I'm going to be interviewing Michael Shellenburger, one of the authors, along with Ted Nordhaus, of Breakthrough, From the Death of Environmentalism to the Politics of Possibility. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
I really like this book, and I've been recommending to all my friends, like, you have to read this book because it has a more positive approach than we're used to hearing about from the environmental movement. Could you explain the basic premise of the book?
Yeah, the argument of the book is that older forms of environmentalism were focused on constraining human power and restricting and stopping all the things about human development that we didn't like. And that worked pretty well for dealing with smaller, more local pollution problems like polluted rivers and lakes or air pollution and smog in Los Angeles. But faced with the bigger challenges like global climate change, global species extinctions, the loss of the Amazon, we need a different approach. We need an approach that embraces a different kind of development and is more focused on creating a new, more ecological economy rather than sort of constraining and limiting the parts of the older economy that we don't like.
You start the book by talking about Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, I Have a Dream. And you said he didn't write, I have a nightmare, he wrote, I have a dream. Why was that speech so powerful, so important?
Well, the story that we tell at the beginning of the book is that King actually started giving an I have a nightmare speech. Most people don't ever watch the whole thing, but he started with a very dark and discouraged speech, in part because he was angry at President Kennedy, who had asked him to call off the speech. And it was very kind of resentful and dark. And then we point out that at one of the darkest moments in the speech, his friend, the gospel singer Mahalia Jackson, who was sitting behind him on the dais, literally yelled out, tell him about the dream, Martin. And she had heard him practicing little riffs on the I Have a Dream speech as they traveled around the country together. And King sort of stopped himself. You can sort of see him, very smooth speaker, but he kind of stops and realizes that he needs to make a change. And he literally says to himself, we should not wallow in the valley of despair. And that line for us became very symbolic and potent. We wanted to kind of bring that story back to remind people that that speech was sort of interrupted, and he had to switch from that nightmare to the dream, and it made it not only a great speech, but it also made it a historical moment. Literally months later, Congress passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which really extended full equality to African Americans. And that was for us an important metaphor because we think this is a moment when we want to be shouting to green leaders, let's talk about the dream of a better future instead of just a warning of an apocalypse to come.